Reading easy and interesting books regularly is one of the most effective ways to improve English reading skills, especially for learners. When a learner starts with simple books, the language feels friendly rather than confusing. Easy books usually contain familiar words, short sentences, and clear ideas, which help readers understand the meaning without feeling stressed. If a book is too difficult, the reader may stop frequently to check the dictionary, which breaks concentration and reduces interest. Easy books allow smooth reading and help the learner enjoy the process, while naturally absorbing new words and sentence patterns. Choosing interesting books is equally important, because interest creates motivation. When a reader enjoys the topic, reading no longer feels like a task but becomes a pleasant activity. Stories about adventure, friendship, mystery, daily life, or personal growth can attract learners and keep them engaged for longer periods. Interest helps the brain focus better, making it easier to remember vocabulary and understand ideas. When learners read something they like, they are more likely to read regularly, which is essential for improvement. Regular reading helps the mind get used to English structure, grammar, and expressions without conscious effort. Regular reading builds confidence and fluency over time. Even reading for a short time every day is more effective than reading once a week for many hours. Daily reading strengthens comprehension skills and improves reading speed naturally. Easy books also help learners recognize common words and phrases, quickly reducing hesitation while reading. As confidence grows, learners begin to understand texts faster, and choosing topics you enjoy to stay motivated is a crucial strategy for improving English reading skills because motivation plays a key role in learning. When learners read about subjects they find interesting, reading stops being a chore and becomes an enjoyable activity. Interest naturally draws attention, making it easier to focus on the text for longer periods without feeling bored or distracted. For example, someone who loves sports may enjoy reading articles about football or cricket, while another person who enjoys adventure stories may prefer novels with exciting plots. This personal connection with the topic keeps readers engaged and encourages them to read more consistently. Reading about enjoyable topics also helps learners understand the content more easily. When readers are familiar with the subject or passionate about it, they can predict ideas, understand vocabulary, and follow the story better. Familiarity with the topic reduces the cognitive load because readers can focus more on language learning rather than struggling to understand the main idea. Enjoyable topics often contain familiar situations or experiences that make comprehension easier, which gradually builds confidence. As learners feel more confident, they become more willing to challenge themselves with slightly more difficult material over time. Interest in reading material also supports the habit of regular reading, which is essential for improvement. Learners are more likely to set aside time daily if they are reading something they like. This daily practice improves vocabulary, grammar recognition, and overall comprehension skills without making reading feel like a forced activity. Moreover, when learners enjoy what they read, they are more likely to discuss the content with friends, teachers, or online communities, which further reinforces language learning. Engaging with topics they enjoy also encourages curiosity, prompting learners to explore related articles, books, or other resources in English. Focusing on interesting topics provides an emotional connection to reading, which strengthens memory and retention. When readers feel excited or curious about a story or subject, they are more likely to remember new words, phrases, and sentence structures. This emotional engagement makes learning natural and effective, turning reading into a habit rather than an obligation. Over time, consistently choosing interesting topics allows learners to expand their vocabulary and comprehension skills in a way that feels effortless and enjoyable. Learning new words using context and a dictionary is an essential step in improving English reading skills because vocabulary directly affects understanding. When readers encounter unfamiliar words, immediately stopping to look them up can break concentration and make reading feel slow and tiring. Instead, trying to understand the meaning of a word by reading the surrounding sentences helps maintain the flow of reading. Context often provides clues through examples, descriptions, comparisons, or the overall situation, which allows the reader to guess the meaning without losing interest in the text. Using context to understand new words also develops confidence and independence in readers. When learners practice guessing meanings, they rely more on their thinking skills rather than depending completely on a dictionary. Even if the guessed meaning is not exact, it is usually close enough to understand the message of the text. This habit trains the brain to analyze language patterns and improves overall comprehension. Over time, readers become faster and more comfortable because they do not pause frequently, which makes reading more enjoyable and effective. The dictionary still plays an important role in vocabulary learning, but it should be used wisely. After finishing a paragraph or a page, checking the dictionary for important or repeated unfamiliar words helps confirm their meanings. Dictionaries provide not only definitions, but also pronunciation, parts of speech, and example sentences, which help learners understand how words are used in real situations. Writing down new words along with their meanings and example sentences can further strengthen memory and help learners recall them later. Combining context guessing with dictionary use creates a balanced and powerful learning method. Words learned through context are easier to remember because they are connected to a story or idea, rather than learned in isolation. This approach also helps learners understand how a word's meaning can change depending on the situation. As vocabulary gradually expands, reading becomes smoother and more enjoyable, allowing learners to understand texts more deeply and confidently, which supports long-term improvement in English reading skills. Reading daily to build a strong habit is one of the most effective ways to improve English reading skills because consistency plays a major role in language learning. When reading becomes a daily activity, the brain gradually adjusts to the structure, rhythm, and patterns of the English language. Even spending a short amount of time each day, such as 15 or 20 minutes, is more beneficial than reading for long hours only once in a while. Daily reading keeps the language fresh in the mind and helps learners stay connected with English on a regular basis. A strong reading habit develops discipline and reduces fear of the language. In the beginning, learners may find it difficult to focus or understand everything they read, but daily practice makes reading feel natural and comfortable. As the habit strengthens, reading speed and comprehension improve without conscious effort. Repeated exposure to common words, phrases, and sentence structures helps learners recognize them quickly, which reduces hesitation and confusion. Over time, learners begin to read more smoothly and confidently, making the process less tiring and more enjoyable. Daily reading also supports steady vocabulary growth. Encountering words repeatedly in different texts helps learners remember them more easily and understand their usage in various contexts. Instead of memorizing word lists, learners naturally absorb vocabulary through regular reading. This repeated exposure strengthens memory and helps learners understand subtle meanings of words. Daily reading also improves grammar awareness because learners see correct sentence structures again and again, which helps them use English more accurately in speaking and writing. Building a daily reading habit also encourages long-term improvement and self-motivation. When reading becomes part of a daily routine, it no longer feels like a task assigned by a teacher, but a personal activity. This sense of ownership increases motivation and responsibility for learning. Over time, learners may begin to explore different types of reading materials, such as stories, articles, or news, which further expands their knowledge and language skills. A daily reading habit creates a strong foundation that supports continuous growth and confidence in English reading skills. Reading slowly and carefully for better understanding is an important practice for improving English reading skills, especially for learners who are still developing their language ability. When readers rush through a text, They often miss important details, misunderstand ideas, or feel confused about the meaning. Slow reading allows the mind to process each sentence properly and understand how ideas are connected. By taking time to read carefully, learners can focus on the message of the text rather than simply moving their eyes across the words. Careful reading helps learners notice how English sentences are formed. When reading slowly, readers can observe grammar patterns, punctuation, and sentence structures more clearly. This awareness helps improve overall language accuracy because learners begin to recognize how correct English sounds and looks. Slow reading also allows readers to pay attention to connecting words such as because, however, although, and therefore, which are important for understanding the flow of ideas. Recognizing these connections makes it easier to follow complex sentences and paragraphs. Reading slowly also improves comprehension and memory. When readers take time to think about what they are reading, they are more likely to remember the information. This is especially helpful when reading academic texts, instructions, or stories with deeper meanings. Careful reading encourages readers to pause, reflect, and even reread sentences when necessary. This active involvement with the text strengthens understanding and prevents misunderstandings that may occur due to guessing or skipping important parts. Another benefit of slow and careful reading is improved confidence. When learners understand what they read, they feel more satisfied and motivated to continue reading. They are less likely to feel frustrated or overwhelmed by difficult texts. Over time, careful reading naturally leads to better reading speed because understanding improves and fewer pauses are needed. This method builds a strong foundation for advanced reading skills and helps learners develop patience and focus, which are essential qualities for long-term success in English reading comprehension. Making notes and highlighting important points is a powerful technique for improving English reading skills because it turns reading into an active learning process. When learners underline key sentences, circle important words, or write short notes in the margins, they interact more deeply with the text. This active involvement helps the brain focus better and understand the main ideas clearly, instead of reading passively and forgetting information quickly. Note-making encourages learners to think about what they are reading and identify what is truly important. Highlighting important points also helps learners organize information in a clear and meaningful way. When a text contains many ideas, examples, or details, it can be difficult to remember everything. Marking key lines allows readers to quickly review the most important information later without rereading the entire text. This is especially useful for students preparing for exams or readers studying informational texts. Highlighted sections act as visual reminders, helping learners recall ideas more easily and strengthening memory over time. Taking notes improves understanding and vocabulary learning as well. Writing short summaries in one's own words helps learners check whether they have truly understood the text. When learners write meanings of new words or examples in a notebook, they are more likely to remember and use them correctly in the future. Note-making also allows learners to connect new information with what they already know, which deepens comprehension. This process makes learning more personal and effective, as the notes reflect the learner's own thinking and understanding. Another advantage of making notes and highlighting is that it builds confidence and independence. Learners become more aware of their progress when they review their notes and see how much they have learned. Over time, this habit improves concentration, critical thinking, and reading efficiency. Instead of feeling lost while reading, learners feel in control and motivated. When reading is combined with thoughtful note-making, it becomes a meaningful and rewarding activity that leads to long-term improvement and transforms reading into a smart, confident, and enjoyable learning journey.